This is Abe Friedtanzer from Awards Buzz, and I'm very excited to be speaking with Erin Moriarty about Catching Dust. How are you, Erin?
I'm really good. How are you?
Good, good. Can you tell me what appealed to you about this story?
Honestly, every component of it, I felt like I feel very lucky because it wasn't intentional. It just sort of happened. That I've really found this area of projects and characters that put you in a position of expecting one thing and getting another, right? And I just feel like Gina, you want to put her in a box. You think she's going to be the ingenue, and then she breaks through that box. And so does the film in itself. And it's just really about taking films and just introducing and really forcing the concept of humanity into film in ways that exist, but I want to see more of, especially when it comes to women. I want to see that paradoxical, like, yeah, she is the ingenue at the start because by definition she's innocent and she is sheltered, but because she starts out that way and ends up finding herself and her strength, the ingenue does not negate the strength or the power in that character. It actually, to me, means that she's stronger because of it and she's transcended even more. So I just loved that the script lives in the area of gray in terms of moralities, because that's what life lives in. And I loved that Gina is this complex, messy woman who makes wrong choices and right choices, but ultimately it's about the way she's metabolized her life thus far that determines her position of strength and identity.
Was there anything that you found very difficult to relate to about her?
No, no. And that's what I thought was really another reason why I liked the idea of playing the character, because I thought, wow, she grew up in Texas, Western Texas. She grew up in an entirely different environment under entirely different circumstances. And yet I feel so, she resonates with me in such profound ways. And actually, my boss and the boys taught me this, which is that the more specific you get with characters and scripts, the more they resonate with people. And you'd think it was the opposite. And most writers or actors, you might be more broad to begin with because you would think that that would make you a blank palette, right? A blank slate. But it goes to show that there are differences for sure, but we're much more connected than we realize. And I think that that's really cool to have realized in finding this character through my own personal connections with her.
I've had the chance to see Jai Courtney in some endearing roles, some less endearing
Yeah.
roles. And this,
Yes.
I would say, is probably one of the less endearing ones. Were you familiar with his body of work, and how did you work to establish this not so great on screen relationship?
Honestly, I was familiar and I met him, and within 2 minutes of meeting him, I was like, "This is gonna be great." Because the thing is, when you're playing a character like Gina or like Clyde, and you have that dynamic, you need to feel safe with each other. And he is so perfect for Clyde because, yes, in one sense, Clyde is abusive and he's this and he's that, but on paper, he's going to be summarized in such a reductive way. And you have to look at the facts, which is that he was abandoned and he was raised in an environment that was devoid of love and everything that any human deserves. And all of it was absent. And so, no wonder he acts out in the ways that he does. It does not justify it whatsoever. But I love that this film just explores the fact that, you know, trauma, yes, does Gina metabolize her trauma in a way that ultimately puts her in a position to find herself? She does. But is is Clyde a bad person? Do we vilify him because he can't? And I don't think we can say that, because unless we're the kinds of people who have grown up like him, we cannot judge how it would turn out. And I think we too often judge others and assume we would have made the right decisions if we were in their position. So Jai is the nicest dude ever. And seeing him play this character was such a joy because he is so complicated, paradoxical, and not what you would expect. He is the warmest and most supportive and just the most perfect partner in crime and acting and anything else that he brought the nuances to that character that were mandatory and in the way that would make the film ultimately turn out to what it would be. So he was perfect. He was perfect as a human. Oops, as I spill my coffee, excuse me. I have 1 second. Let me just pause this so that we don't have, I'm not interrupting my Jai moment. I'm just going to repeat my final sentence about Jai so he doesn't get negated and dismissed by that coffee. Jai is an amazing human, amazing actor. And I was able to play Gina the way that I played her because of him.
What was your experience like working with your great writer director, Stuart?
Okay, Stuart. Stuart's amazing. He really should teach him. It's funny, he's a first-time director, but he should teach a master class in directing, which has a lot. Because he has opinions. They're specific, they're justified, they're well thought out, but he's not married to them. So he's a brilliant collaborator. And I think that ego is one of the worst things that can be a detriment. It's one of the worst things that someone can possess if they are a director, because it means that they can't collaborate. And collaboration is what it's about. And the same goes for an actor, right? I observe that the director is looking at things from the macro, the actor is looking at things from the micro. And so I do trust the director, and I tend to defer to them if they're referring to the broad spectrum of things and how this fits into that. But he is so devoid of ego that he ironically got his way more often, because I could tell it was just earnestly because he thought it was, and he knew it was the right choice. It wasn't arbitrary, And so he loves the preparation process. I love the preparation process. We love granularity, and it's all about making these characters human. And that's exactly what he was game for. So, yeah, we're a package deal now, and I'm going to force him to put me in his contracts from here on out. And I'm saying this publicly to cause that to happen, to hopefully manifest that.
Well, I think this small independent film will get a lot of visibility due to the fact that people know you from your role on The Boys. This is a very different project, though, and
Yeah.
it's certainly a lot more deliberate in its pacing and just the amount of stuff that's happening around. What do you hope that people who seek this out because they know you from that role will find in this film?
Exactly what you're saying is that sometimes you need to see someone in front of you do something to believe that they are not a character that you have formerly perceived them as. I love Annie and I love Starlight, and I always will. That character has been so much fun to play and is the kind of character that I've always wanted to play. So the fact that I've gotten to play her for so many years is such a blessing, and I will never, ever, ever, ever resent the fact that people perceive me as her, because that's human nature, right? You get to know a character, you watch them fall in love, you watch them go through these moments of hardship. Of course, you're going to associate someone with that. But to play a character that's so different from her is just hopefully a foreshadow of what's to come, because that's just so much fun to play characters that are different. And sometimes you need to do that to force people to see you in a different light. And so I just looked at it as an opportunity to play a character that resonated with me. And she just so happens to be completely different from Annie. And that made her all the more fun to play. But I just think that there's an identity thing going on with both of them. And there are so many parallels and so many differences that to play different female characters that are put in a box and ultimately break out of them, I couldn't have asked for a better sequence of roles to play. And I hope that it's determinant of what's to come.
Well, aside from all of Stewart's successive projects, do you have a next project like this lined up?
I do. I do. I'm doing a project with it's very cool. I'm with Woody Harrelson, who played my father in True Detective. So that was 10 years ago now. So very, very full circle, but very different circumstances based on a true story. It's the first time actually he and Juliette Lewis have reunited since Natural Born Killers, and it's about a serial killer who is covered up because of reasons we find out, and the women that are his victims are not, obviously their families don't get justice, but there's one survivor. And so that is a character that is completely different from all the characters we've spoken about, and once again just like adds variety. And ultimately I just at the end of the day I want to look at the roles that I played, and I just want a full spectrum of them. I want a full spectrum of them because we can do that now as women, and I do not want to make it about a female thing, but I do want to kind of celebrate that we can do that now. But she is the sole survivor of a serial killer, and we see that in her and how that's affected her. And it's an emotionally and psychologically rich role, and I cannot wait to reunite with Woody under those circumstances that are so different, but very intense and very cool and very challenging, which I love.
I look forward to seeing that. Thank you so much for your time and good luck with this
Thank you
film.
so much for tolerating my coffee spill. It's my second one of the day. I'm surprised.
Hope it
Usually
wasn't
it
too big a
happens
mess.
before that. I know you couldn't see it.
Thank you so much.